When you're looking at some of the current state of the technology on both the enterprise and the MSP side, how are things moving forward with VDI, desktop as a service, and these cloud or hybrid workspaces? Like, what are some of the things that you both are noticing on your day to day and kind of the broader vision of these?
Obviously, it's going to be an obvious statement, but COVID has changed the way people
Mm-hmm.
work, right? I mean, we have this whole remote work from anywhere, home work from home, whatever term you want to use, but expectations are different. I think DAS, in whatever shape or form, is an enabling technology. It's certainly not the exclusive way to enable it, but it is a sometimes the best and sometimes one of the best ways to enable work from anywhere
Mm-hmm.
for different use cases. So I think as a result, we're seeing a lot of adoption. We're also seeing a lot of adoption and shift towards Microsoft because you have data proximity to the workload that everyone uses, which is Windows Office 365,
Mm-hmm.
and you have great licensing synergy. So people that subscribe to Windows 10, Windows 11, M365 that have the inherent license built into what they already subscribe to. So a lot of tailwinds for the DAS market evolving towards a Microsoft ecosystem. And we see that Microsoft is amazing at building this core technology that's super broadly applicable to the larger market. And where we come in is we are able to identify specific use cases like the MSP use case or like the AVD use case in the enterprise. And we can add more value on top of the great core technology that's there. So, my vision on the market is it's certainly growing. It's growing towards Microsoft, or there's a lot of share shift and growth happening there. And we are trying to participate in helping enable that transformation and that market shift towards DAS in Microsoft ecosystem.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that, Vadim. I think that the single vendor component has made, from a relatively speaking, a single vendor component from Microsoft has become an accelerant or a catalyst for people not having to do bake-offs for VDI. Is it Citrix? Is it Nutanix? Is it going to be VMware? Is it going to be WorkSpot? You're looking at really kind of without too much vendor lock-in, right? You have workspaces and GCP with different management planes on top of them. But from a DAS perspective, I believe that there's going to be, and I've seen a couple of industry analysts talk about the fact that, the number is something like, VDI since 2007 had an addressable market of X. And during that time, they were able to achieve a 10% market penetration in roughly 20 years, right? Maybe 17 years. And the reality is, with DAS, we're already starting to see that by 2025, they think with AVD, Windows 365, or even just Azure VMs being managed by VMware or by Citrix or by Nerdio or by any of these other technologies, they think it's going to be a 20% market penetration, which is double, and in fact, that
Mm-hmm.
addressable market's even larger because now you have SMBs, you have the MSPs driving a huge amount of this. I think that the DAS market, while it will not be the exclusive delivery vehicle of workspaces, is going to take a bigger chunk of the market share of the VDI space and actually grow it exponentially, like it's never been seen before. But there's two separate sets of problems in my mind when you start thinking about it, right? If you look at the enterprises, the first thing that you have to think about, and we've talked about this, everything is on-prem. Windows 11 and AVD and Windows 365 are an inflection point for these people to take their on-prem 20 years of SMS 1.2 and config manager workloads that they've been custom actioning. They've been taking these applications and configuration profiles, keeping them in the data center, and now they want to modernize it and move it to a modern management plane like Nerdio that could deliver this into a DAS offering. So for the enterprises, they have all this legacy technical debt, but they also have all this logic built into these homegrown applications or their completely customized COTS applications. That's going to be a challenge for them to get it into a modern management plane, right? So from our perspective, I think that what we can help drive in terms of additional DaaS adoption, specifically in the enterprise, is taking that logic, eliminating that debt, and ultimately getting them into Nerdio, which is why part of the integration that we've been working on is so exciting, right? Because if we can take all these legacy applications and make them available, because you talk to most customers today that are using DaaS or that are using Windows 365. I use Windows 365. I have Miro installed on there. I have Zoom installed on there. I have Office installed on there. I have Teams installed on there, and Chrome. That's it, right? Everything else that I use is SaaS. But if I needed to use a back-end processing claims application, that's not something that's sitting up in AVD, right? That's sitting on Config Manager somewhere else. I got to get that into AVD. So I think that while AVD is going to start being adopted at scale, more and more workloads from an application perspective need to be modernized so that ultimately, Nerdio or a modern management plane can ultimately deliver them to DaaS, because the only reason a desktop exists is so people can do their job and consume their apps.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And to look at the pretty background.
And to look at the pretty background, obviously. Yeah, that goes without saying.
Rimo3 offers automated pre-deployment testing of Windows applications, OS updates, and security patches. Use unattended automation to test and assess application readiness for Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 365, Azure Virtual Desktop, as well as identifying MSIX and multi-session suitability. Your apps, your workspace, our priority.